In this next article from NPR, or Nonsense Private Radio, large Venezuelan migration sparks xenophobic backlash in Colombia. Oops. Just 3 days after crossing the border into Colombia to escape food shortages, joblessness, and authoritarian rule, Venezuelan Alexander Gonzalez says he's shocked by the xenophobia of his adopted homeland. I can totally understand why they would want to GTFO out of that shithole. Venezuela is a communist shithole. Would never want to spend any time there. I definitely am sympathetic to their plight here. But they're mass migrating in the millions across the border. And when they do that, how are you going to take out the government that just oppressed you? How does that work to just flee and leave the bad people to control all the victimized people who couldn't flee? How does that help anybody out? It doesn't. You have to take care of your own business. We fought wars. We fought wars where a lot of people died so that we could not be in that situation. And the only reason why we're not in that situation is because we stuck up for ourselves. Quote, Colombians treat Venezuelans badly, end quote. So don't you dare call white people racist for not supporting illegal immigration anymore, because obviously Latinos don't support illegal immigration either. It says Gonzalez, 19, as he's takes a breather on the Colombian town of Pamplona before setting off on foot to the capital of Bogota. Quote, they practically spit in our faces, and quote, see, we treat them a lot better than that. Like they're mass migrating up to the United States in the same numbers, in the millions, but we don't spit in their face. So the amount of racism, like people love Latinos around here. I mean, that's the biggest problem, is people love Latinos too much. Oops, I think that guy was supposed to be in the background. Amid Venezuela's worst economic crisis, which was widely blamed on corruption and mismanagement by corruption and mismanagement. No. That was straight communism. Corruption and mismanagement is the name of the game under communism. Corruption and mismanagement by Maduro's communist regime. More than 5 million Venezuelans have fled the country. Whew. You know, people. The thing you got to understand, which totally paints a different picture than what the far left would like to paint, of this white supremacist oppressing the minorities in the Democrat-run cities from the poor rural states. Every culture in the world has instincts for self-preservation. When you have millions of people mass migrating in, they're going to become the majority of people. Their culture is going to be the one that dominates in the culture over your culture. And then the people that you're complaining about racism, no, it'll all of a sudden be that group of people that is now the group of people that is racist against you when they take over. Because they'll say, you were racist against us, so now we have to get back at you. We have to get retribution for the wrong thing that you engaged in. When really you just have to expect this stuff to happen. You really just have to, expect, if you're flooding over in the millions, that the local population is not going to be happy about it. That's the same everywhere around the entire world. Everywhere. Magical. It's like I'm floating. I think he was supposed to be in the background. The exodus began in 2014. Since then, About 2 million Venezuelans have settled in neighboring Colombia, with smaller numbers moving to Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, everywhere in Latin America. Now this massive influx of migrants and refugees is creating a backlash in Colombia, with some people blaming the newcomers for a host of problems, including rising crime, unemployment, spread of COVID-19. This is the reality of poor people. Nothing wrong with poor people. The fact that you're poor, I mean, I'm poor. I'm not, I mean, I might look like I got a suit and like I got a bunch of money, but I got canceled, dude. I don't have money. This is all just goodwill stuff, hodgepodge it together on a shoestring budget. Because it was fun. And I got to send tax returns, right? Or not tax returns, some stimulus. I don't call it a stimulus check. I call it a stimulus loan. Because you have to pay it back. It's not free money. You have to pay it back. So anytime you have a large amount of poor people, you can guarantee you're going to have a large amount of uneducated people. Correct? Am I right? Am I right? Large amount of poor people, large amount of unemployed people. Now, a lot of in these communist countries, a lot of people are really smart. Don't think that that just because they're communist means that they're dumb. No, that's not true. Communism and intelligence are two different things. Their economy sucks, so they can't sell their products and they can't iterate and they can't keep up with it. They can't keep us up with us going as fast as capitalism can. Capitalism scales rapidly. Communism is centralized, requires all these really complicated trading practices in order to distribute everything equally. It just doesn't work. You have to incentivize people to do the stuff that people don't want to do. And you're going to have to pay them 10, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 times more than the rest of the people in order to actually get them to do it, or else they're just not going to do it. If you would like to complain about it, maybe we can invent a world where there aren't lazy people, and maybe we could send you there. Maybe over to Mars. Maybe you could create this new world over there. But here in the real world, where the normal people are, people need to get paid a paycheck. What are the two things that you care about the most in your entire life? 2 things. You could pick 2 things. What would it be? Your family and your job. Those would be the 2 things. If you could only have 2 things, you would want to take the family and the job, because the job is going to bring the other things, and you can't live without family. Nobody can live without having been born. Having been born requires a family. You can't live with it. You can't live without the products of your work. You cannot live when the government is taking your money and just giving it away to everybody else, because you don't have any incentive to work. You're just not going to, and you're just going to end up being poor, and it's just going to degrade to this point where you just can't take it anymore. But these leftists, these anarchists and these communists and anarcho-communists, they don't understand this shit. To them, they think, oh, it's just the answer's simple. It's just some white supremacist who's racist. He won't share with the minorities, and that's why we can't, why we're not equal. So we have to take the money from the white people to attack and take away their white privilege, because they have bad intentions and they want to use the money to oppress the oppressed class of people to maintain their dominance in the social hierarchy. As you can see, this stuff's just insane. It's like just rambling. None of it makes any sort of sense. You live in a world where people aren't going to be nice to you. They don't want to give you free shit. They don't want to give you their stuff. They want to take this. They needed that stuff. They worked really hard for it. It doesn't grow on trees. They had to work for it. And that's why they don't want to just give it away to everybody else, because that's their time. Why don't I just be a slave and just work for you for free? Because slavery is bad, right? Well, what happens whenever you just make people work all day for other people? It's slavery. They're not going to want to work. You need to incentivize them to do the work because people are lazy. They don't want to do it. And if the way that we get them to do the work is that one person gets 10 to 100 to 1,000, maybe 10,000 times as much, well, then so be it. It's a lot better than living in communist Venezuela where you're having to flee and become a mass migrant and then live at the bottom of the social hierarchy, impoverished. That creates a far right, steep social hierarchy. That's far right, bro. You're like, oh, no. It's only Republicans and conservatives can be far right, right? Because they're on the right. And that means that that nobody on the left could be on the far right because it says right in it. So that means that that they're the right and far right. That means that they're the same. That means if you turn into a Republican and a conservative and you keep going more to the right, then you're going to turn into a Nazi, a fascist. I mean, it really is fucking insane. It's insane. I just dropped the F-bomb. Sorry, kids. I'm getting rid of the F-bombs. Next show. The message of Venezuelan migrants are no longer welcome comes from average Colombian citizens and powerful government officials alike. Last week, for example, Colombian President Ivan Duque announced that undocumented Venezuelan migrants would not receive vaccinations for the coronavirus despite their concerns from refugee agencies. This policy would lead to more infections. Of course, they won't get it. Duque told Bogota radio station otherwise they would have a stampede with the whole world crossing the border to get vaccinated. I'm not sure if I believe that. I think the vast majority of people don't really actually care. Research shows the Venezuelan Colombians are more likely to be victims of crime rather than perpetrators. After a Venezuelan migrant stabbed to death a bus passenger in Bogota in October, Mayor Claudia Lopez declared, quote, "I don't want to stigmatize immigrants, but there are some Venezuelans involved in crime who are making our lives impossible." It's what time you have a bunch of poor people that are living in the slums, they're going to steal. It's a fact of reality. It's been going on since the dawn of humanity. Boy, I just look so big whenever I move my hand over that dude, huh? You're like, whoa. So the only real way to you can't just put a Band-Aid over it. And it's not like it's just a war zone. They're going to have to collapse and take out the communists. I mean, we can't hold your hand forever, man. But I am very sympathetic to their plight. It's a hard situation. What do? I hate communism. I like Cuban immigrants to the U.S. because they hate communism. If you hate communism, I like you. Probably. Chances are I might not, but probably will like you, because I like vast majority of people. But yeah, you can guarantee they're not calling any of these Latinos racist. Not at all. They're Latino calling another Latino racist. Like, no. They don't call them Latinos down there. They're Colombians, Venezuelans, Argentinians, Chileans. They're people. They're a vast, diverse, very diverse group of people down there in Latin America. It's more mixed race, more equal number of white people, Latinos, and black people. But Latinos are racist against black people. They are. As a group, they're the light-skinned Latinos are racist against dark-skinned Latinos. It's not just like an American problem. It's not. It's a problem with people just do that. They call it the social immune system. Look it up. Steven Pinker talks about it. He's a Harvard psychologist. That the social immune system, which is racism and xenophobia is a part of it. Back in the day, they used to have plagues that used to wipe people out. So if you shook hands with someone who was from very far away, there's a chance your entire family and your entire village might die. And because of that, people created racist and xenophobic ideologies to protect themselves from plagues and from authoritarians and barbarians who would come and invade and slaughter everyone, kill everybody, give everybody diseases. But we, as white people, we get shamed for the sins of people in the past because we invented the modern world. And because of that, there were some people who had technological advances over other people and allowed them to be the dominant class of people. But apparently, getting there first and having some tyrants is apparently like racism. They don't really want to look at the reality of the world. It was like, okay, well, why were they white supremacists, even in the first place? Well, they were Christians. The Bible said it was okay to own slaves because back in the day, almost everybody around the world owned slaves. Every culture around the world owned slaves. Not everybody, but like over 6% of most of the cultures owned slaves. It was just what they did. It wasn't because they were Christians. All of the religions thought that they were the God's chosen people. They all thought that. The Muslims would all mass slaughter people. They would commit genocide against Jews. The Africans were selling themselves into slavery. The American Indians were invading other Amerindian tribes and slaughtering them, committing genocide, taking them as slaves. It's the same story everywhere. But only Americans are blamed for it, and that's because of one reason, and one reason only. The average age of a white person is 56. The average age of a minority in the United States is 23. And the demographics of the United States are rapidly shifting because we allowed a mass number of immigrants from Latin America. And this caused the young generation, well, they're saying browning out from the bottom up is what they say it is. The young people are turning more diverse. I hate this word diverse. Like, white people are plenty diverse, dude. Like, there's a plethora of diversity with white people. You ever heard of French, German, Italian, Spanish, Russian? You ever heard of these people? Every one of them has a culture. Everyone is like, we're not cultural. It's not like diverse people doesn't mean your skin color. If there's only one kind of white person to you, it's because you're the racist. It's because you're the one that thinks that white people can't be diverse because our culture was appropriated by the rest of the world when we created the modern world. And we have to be ashamed that we invented all that awesome stuff because we dominated the world. Because people they hate dominant males. They hate rich people who come with all these fancy things and all their technology and modern medicine and movies. Because they're white supremacists. Because the minorities ain't done nothing wrong ever in their entire life. Nope. There's not a single racist Latino. There's not a single racist African. There's not a single authoritarian Asian. Not a dang one of them is communist, man. No, it's just white people. No, the white people just bad because they killed the American Indians and stole their land, and they enslaved Africa and brought all these people up in the hood, and they brought us democracy, and then they freed the slaves, and then this caused them to be poor for a little while, and then this is somehow the white people's fault. Everything in history is white people's fault because they got white privilege. I'm tired of it, dude. This shit, I'm sick of it. Let's go to something else, man. That's the end of this immigration segment. The live stream is not over. We have one more little segment on cancel culture. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 more articles, so stick around. Smash that like button. Like really just go bam. Don't break your computer. If you did, I'm not paying for it. Ring that bell after you subscribe so that you get notified whenever I go live. Because I am a giant over here next to this QAnon shaman dude, huh? If you got value out of this, if you got a chuckle, you thought it was funny, you thought it was crazy, off the wall, you hated me, feel free. Share this video on social media. See what your friends think. See what kind of reaction they're going to have. And check us out on Parler, Twitter, Facebook. Hold on. Did I say Parler? Parler got shut down. At RSS Commentary on all platforms.